Welcome to Arctic Aurora LifeScience. My name is Ulrika Slåne Bjerke, and together with me here today is Torbjörn Bjerke and Daniel Bolanowski, and we are the team managing the fund Arctic Aurora LifeScience. Today we have gathered to talk about the development of the fund during November, as well as comment on the sector during November. As in October, the focus of the market, and I would say the whole world, continued to be on the development of corona vaccines. And both BioNTech, Pfizer, as well as Moderna came with surprisingly strong interim data in terms of efficacy. So Torbjörn, maybe you can comment a bit on the vaccines and the efficacy data.
Yeah, as you indicated, Ulrika, the efficacy was surprisingly good. Both companies, or both group of companies, came out with about 95% efficacy, meaning that if you take the vaccine, you have 95% chance for not getting the virus infection, and that's fantastic results. We've never seen that results in any vaccination trials ever, right? So this is really good news. Good news for the world. It's good news for all of us. And the stock prices of these companies went up. If we look at BioNTech, it was up 46%, and Pfizer was about 19%, and Moderna 126%, and that gives a big question mark about the valuation of Moderna. If we look at what can we expect next year of sales of Moderna in the COVID-19, the market believe it's about between $7 and $10 billion US, and maybe for the next 2 years, maybe. And then for the maintenance, look at the maintenance booster vaccines. If they can sell about 100 million doses per year afterwards, it will mean about $2 to $3 billion US. But the question mark here is really when have we met the top? Today, pre-market, the company is up again 15%. Yeah. So it's amazing. So
close to Gilead's market cap.
Yeah, almost like Gilead's market cap.
Gilead's sales are well above 20 billion.
Yes.
Each year. So
yes. But you can say that the last spike came on the announcement that they were seeking for approval.
Yes, but when you look at the data, of course they want to they should get approval. If we look at the European limits of probability for these vaccines, it's about 50%. So, and they are now up to almost 100%.
So,
good news. Good news.
What happened to AstraZeneca? It was a hiccup there.
It was a hiccup. Well, whereas the Pfizer and Moderna data was very clear, the AstraZeneca data was quite messy. So different cohorts responded differently. The best cohorts, those volunteers that had actually over 90% efficacy, was in a dose cohort that actually wasn't supposed to be initially. It was an error in dosing that happened to be the most efficacious dose. So AstraZeneca need to redo, I think, a phase 3 trial with sort of their correct dosing to get a definite.
And the lower dose was in younger patients as well, so it's difficult to say.
Well, exactly, and because you can't really have those questions in terms of dosing, you can't have those questions unanswered when you file.
But so, Daniel, that was a big surprise, right? You should imagine that a big company like AstraZeneca do that mistake. Well,
but it's a novel vaccine.
But dosing.
Yeah, but it's still, I think you need a bit of a tweaking on the way. This has been less than a year process, right? So you could say the mRNA companies, by the way, that's Moderna and Pfizer, have had it easy. It's easier perhaps to calculate which doses you need for your material. Mm-hmm. Here you're adding a virus, actually not a coronavirus, but a different kind of virus, and then you attach a part of the coronavirus to then trigger the immune response, and everything becomes a little bit more difficult. And remember, usually vaccines take years to develop, to find the right dose, etc.
So you talked about Toby, on other companies coming with coronaviruses. So Daniel, can you comment a bit about the next in line?
Yeah, because there's been a lot of awesome market speculation in anticipation for the data, especially in the smaller companies. Novavax is one of them. They are probably next in line together with Johnson & Johnson for their phase 3 vaccine data. We can expect that perhaps in December. If not, then at least in January or early 21. So that's a different kind of vaccine than those three that we mentioned. It's just the protein actually, and then you add into this vaccine soup Novavax's own adjuvant that sort of triggers the immune response in a stronger way, and actually the antibody data that you look for as a sort of proxy for effect was actually really good in Novavax in the early studies. Of course, those are different. All these studies are done under different circumstances and different assays, for example. So it's difficult to compare, but still an interesting indication in terms of Novavax. And then Johnson & Johnson, big company. A well-established vaccine platform. Their big advantage is one dose only. So if that works nearly as good as the others, they have a big advantage in the long term. If that works really well, again, you could perhaps question the market cap of Moderna and some of the other vaccine players.
So maybe worth mentioning for you invested in our fund that the fund holds positions in those companies that we have mentioned. And we have positions in kind of a bouquet of companies, so we diversify the risk, but we have the exposure to all of these companies bringing the vaccines now coming out into the marketplace. So there's a lot of good things happening in biotech. There is a lot of innovation, and we get positive data from our companies in other areas. And specifically, one data I would say is really warming your heart because it's a company that is developing a treatment against a tough cancer that hits small children, and they came with positive data this month. So, Torbjörn, maybe you can talk a bit about this company and what they are doing and what they achieved.
It's a fantastic story. So Y-mab is the company, and they just got their first product, Danyelza, approved for neuroblastoma. And neuroblastoma is a very rare cancer in children. It begins actually before birth. It attacks the sympathetic nerve system. So, and the sympathetic nerve system controls the heart rate, the respiration, as well as the digestion. So it's very devastating disease, and with no really good treatment option today. So Y-mab has developed this product against this indication with great success. I think the story behind the company is also really interesting. So Thomas Gad, the Danish founder of the company, his daughter Daniela, which is actually giving the name to the first product, Danyelza.
I thought it was named after me, but
no, not after you. She suffered from neuroblastoma, and Thomas took her to Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in the U.S., where they had an experimental antibody against a target on these cancer cells that had shown some effect, and she was cured. So then he thought that I want to develop this for all the patients and get it FDA approved. So that was the beginning of Y-mab, and then he got Klaus Möller involved. Klaus is one of the co-founder of G-mab, so got a very strong team in there, and now they got the first product approval. Fantastic.
That's fantastic.
They also have a very exciting pipeline coming.
yeah, one more in the approval process.
Exactly.
Some minor hiccups so far, but I think hopefully that will be resolved soon, and there'll be a two product company.
Within a rather short period of time, I believe. And the follow-up compounds, follow-up research is really interesting as well. So as you said, it's a good story. it's a impact investing story, I
Yeah.
think.
You can
Saving
read-
children is fantastic. Good to be part of that.
Making difference.
Yeah.
And we are part of it since we finance actually by investing in the company.
Yeah.
So, but we had another approval as well, Daniel.
Yeah, also in a rare disease from Alnylam Pharmaceuticals. So this is in a disease called primary hyperoxaluria, a very difficult name that I always keep forgetting. So this is a genetic disease where patients are missing a key enzyme, which is involved in sort of the metabolism in cells, where you get an overload of a compound called oxalates, and this is rather toxic to the body. So typically, these enzymes work to just get rid of this, but of course in these patients it's not working. So they accumulate oxalate in many different tissues, but most predominantly in kidneys. This is where sort of the first severe symptoms arises in these patients. And there's no approved therapies until now. So Alnylam have come up with this RNA interference drug that works upstream, you can say, from this process. So stopping the compound that then turns into oxalate. So that's what RNA does. It stops the production of proteins, and with quite some good results as well. We have another RNA company, Dicerna, that's developing another hyperoxaluria drug for other subtypes of this disease as well. So great progress there, where there were no good treatment alternatives for.
Interesting.
So
Very good.
I managed to squeeze in RNAi in this episode as well. I'm very happy about that.
So we talked about Y-mab, but there is so much going on in oncology, as we talk about all the time. Oncology is the largest area with so much innovation, and also we project it to be one of the biggest and most growing areas going forward. But can you maybe comment a bit about the news we have had regarding ALX and Trillium and the others?
Very good. So there was a group of companies that, if you notice, got stock prices in the biotech world. A lot of, obviously, names got moved upwards this month, but ALX Oncology was a particular one and ended almost doubling its market cap during November. So that was a sort of a twofold, I think, effect. First, they presented data at a cancer immune conference called SITC, with some rather interesting results in combination with the drugs that target a specific overexpressed protein called HER2. It's very common, or relatively common, in breast cancer. And when you have the legendary drug Herceptin from Roche, that's been working for decades now in this patient population. So basically, they combined their drug with Herceptin, but not in breast cancer, but in gastric cancer that also overexpresses this protein, with some promising results. Early, I think 15 or so patients worth of data, but much better than you would expect from Herceptin alone. And then some even smaller data set in combination with Keytruda, the big immune oncology drug from Merck. Also interesting results. So what does ALX do? Well, they have developed a drug against a protein called CD47. And CD47 had some similarities with Keytruda in that cancer cells use this as a decoy for the immune system, saying, well, we're part of the body, don't eat us, basically. So masking themselves from together with normal cells. So ALX's drug binds to this receptor so that it does not bind. So the interaction between immune cells and cancer cells are not there, and immune cells recognize the cancer cells as foreign and start attacking them. So that's the whole approach. We've seen other companies working against this target as well. Besides ALX, we also saw the company Trillium move up quite substantially during this month in anticipation for data in December and the big hematology conference called ASH very soon. Actually, we'll see the first data in some oncology indications there. Gilead bought a company called 47 actually earlier this year. So we have a few players in that field with some different aspects to them. So we're eagerly awaiting data, how they compare.
But it's a flow of innovation in the area, and we follow it very closely, and we are invested in the companies.
Yes,
it's amazing to see all these new targets coming up, right?
Yeah.
So and adds on to the existing treatment regimes of cancers.
Yeah.
So it looks very positive for the future.
And if I can bridge to another company in our portfolio, Zymeworks.
Yeah.
So I mentioned HER2 cancers. Zymeworks is sort of doing the next generation HER2 treatments.
Yeah.
With also some very interesting data, and just got breakthrough designation for their new HER2 targeted treatment for breast cancer. And they now teamed up with ALX, actually. So combining their two
that should be a powerful
that would be very
combination.
interesting to see. Yeah. So Zymeworks is also one of the sort of winners this month, climbed considerably.
Oh.
So if we wrap this up so far, it's been a very intense month in terms of news from our companies and all the projects they are working with. In terms of the markets and the performance of the fund, we have had a good month, as well as the market in general have been strong. Our fund has been successful, and we have beaten our benchmark. And the same pattern as last month, biotech is going stronger than large pharma. And I think it is, or we think it is, due to the fact that all these innovations are attracting investors, and you get an autonomous growth in this sub-segment of the biopharma industry. Last month we ended our video with talking about the US election. We recorded it one day before the election, and now we know that actually after some question marks in the beginning, Joe Biden won the election, and for the healthcare sector, it is still very unclear what that will mean, because in order for them to get action to get power to implement changes, they need to control the Congress, and it's still very uncertain whether they will, whether the Democrats will take the Senate. But all in all, to summarize what we have learned from their program, the Democrats will start to focus on getting the COVID situation under control, or at least try to. And then their kind of heart question is to enlarge the more general coverage of healthcare in US, which is now called Affordable Care Act, populistically named Obamacare. And I think this is the main question for them, that they will try to broaden that coverage and to increase that. But our advisors in Washington, they tell us that it is very unlikely that we will see any big change the coming 4 years. But we at least we know the situation so far. So next time we will record the next update movie. We will actually be after Christmas. So by this, we like to wish you, to all of you, from all of us, a very Merry Christmas. See you in 21.